Major funding for these broadcasts has been provided by grants from New York Community Bank, Capital One Bank, Eastern Consolidated, M&T Bank, Sterling National Bank, Meridian Capital Group, Customers Bank, Aerial Property Advisors, Perfect Building Maintenance. Additional funding has been provided by AKA Hotels, Corman Communities, AmTrust Title Insurance Company, AVR Realty Company, Avison Young, Bank of America, Merrill Lynch, Bank Leumi USA, Briarwood Organization, CBRE, Chase Commercial Term Lending, Chase Mortgage Lending, Citizens Bank, Cohen Equities, Colliers International NYC, Collins Building Services, Connect One Bank, CPEX Real Estate Services, Dime Community Bank, Douglaston Development, Levine Builders, Flushing Bank, Friedman LLP, Genova Burns, Handro Properties, Handler Real Estate Organization, HAP Investments, Hodges Ward Elliott Inc., Investors Bank, James D. Kuhn Real Estate Center at Syracuse University, Kilroy Architectural Windows, Madison Realty Capital, Matone Group, Mercantile Bank, New Banks, Newmark Grubb Knight Frank, Optimum Window Manufacturing Corp., People's United Bank, Polsonelli, Rosewood Realty Services, SJP Properties, Stonehenge Partners, TD Bank, Terra CRG, the Knackle Group at Cushman & Wakefield, Maring Goff Family Foundation, the Moynihan Group, and these friends.
It's called New Rochelle. 80,000 people. It's a place where there's going to be $4 billion of development. So today I've assembled this group of business leaders who are going to talk about the revitalization and what's taking place in the city of New Rochelle. My guest includes Luiz Aragon, who is Director of Planning, Commissioner for Planning of the city of New Rochelle. Phil Wharton, who's the Executive Vice President of RXR Realty, who's involved with a major redevelopment in New Rochelle. Brian Fisher, who is the principal of Fisher Development, also developing in New Rochelle. Jeremy Bermingham, who is the Executive Vice President at NRDC. And last but not least, the City Manager of the City of New Rochelle, Chuck Strome. So, Chuck, what happened a couple years ago with this plan that the largest portion is with RXR? How the city plan to get involved with this?
Well, we've always been a city that was dying for development but unable to deliver. So when Commissioner Aragon came on, he and I had a strategy session, and essentially we wanted to streamline the process so that when the market was ready for development to occur in New Rochelle, the city was ready. And what we've done is had a master overlay zone developed for our downtown, which took into place the SECRA analysis, which is already done. And
for my audience, what is the SECRA?
That's the environmental review required by the state. And we have streamlined the actual approval process. That zoning was adopted by the City Council unanimously, which takes the politics out of the process. So now when a developer wants to look in our overlay zone area, the SECRA is already done, and we pretty much guarantee them a 90-day approval process. They go right to the planning board with their project.
What's the normal development process after?
Well, in Westchester County and in many areas around New York, it's a very complicated process and a very uncertain process. And in New Rochelle it was the same. And what New Rochelle has had the vision to do is to take a step back and say, what do we really want? We want to encourage development. How do we make it simple and straightforward and transparent? So they hired us to work with them, and over a period of years, we met with them every week and came up with a plan that we thought would work to attract investment, but would also address the needs of the community. And instead of us having a particular project that we were pushing to get approved with New Rochelle, we were helping them come up with a plan for the whole.
Right, so you came out with this major plan. Talk to me about the plan.
So in order to really change the DNA of our downtown, in essence, we had to put together a plan that looked forward to 10 years from now and really see what is the New Rochelle that we want to see tomorrow. Not the New Rochelle of yesterday, but the New Rochelle of tomorrow. And what is the mix that we need? It's not only residential, but it's also commercial, it's office space, it's hospitals, there's a whole mix that makes into a healthy city, a walkable city, a city where folks want to move to. So it was with a partnership with RXR that we're able to develop this vision. But it was created not just by us, but it was created also by the 80,000 New Rochellians that participated intensively with us in creating a vision that was also their vision.
But I think part of the situation is RXR is a leader in figuring out unique environments and working with cities and towns to do this. But here I have two developers, one who's based in Westchester, both of them who are really based in Westchester, who never really came to New Rochelle before. Now, part of the benefit of New Rochelle is the transportation. It's a great transportation, and I'm not here to do a promotional, but it's 25 minutes to the city of New York. You have Metro North, and one day an Amtrak also. So you have the opportunities. Why do you decide to make a major development in New Rochelle, even though I'll call you the king of Jersey City before?
Right. Well, similar to Jersey City, the process of getting your development approved now in New Rochelle is streamlined. So that was a big plus. And, when we first met, we had found a site that we wanted to develop. We're also very transit-oriented developers. So we found a site that is literally on the train station, and in this particular case, the train you can take a train to Penn Station, you can take it to Grand Central from New Rochelle, and you can be there in under a half an hour. So we went to the city and talked to them and started to do our discussions as to how the process might work. And we've been developing in Jersey City for more than 15 years.
So what is the development you're planning for New Rochelle?
The development we're planning in New Rochelle is residential development, luxury residential, which basically will feed into the train station. So from your apartment to Manhattan to Grand Central, you can do it in under half an hour.
So you're directly across the street from the train station?
Exactly.
Now, Chuck was saying before, New Rochelle also has a transit hub. What is the transit hub?
Well, it's a multimodal transportation center. So we have a recently constructed garage. We have the B-Line buses, which is the Westchester County bus service that go in and out of there. We have Metro North, and we have Amtrak, a station. We're an Amtrak station, so you can obviously take Metro North to the city. You can hop an Amtrak to Washington, Philadelphia, Boston, or anywhere you want to go on the Amtrak line. So we basically have all of the methods of transportation, the modes of transportation, serviced by that one facility, which is across the street from his site.
Is it going to be a tower?
At this point, it's going to be 28 stories. It has wonderful views of the Sound. It is right in the middle of New Rochelle, which, as Luiz said, is a very walkable city. It's a nice community. So you have all of the benefits of being in a city, a small city, but you also have the opportunity to get to Manhattan in a very short period of time, which I think is part of the reason, not to bring it back to Jersey City, but is part of the reason why Jersey City has done so well. So I think it's the ease of transportation into Manhattan.
I mean, the one question to look at the other way is, why hasn't New Rochelle developed earlier? And at one time it was a very
one time
city.
you were involved with development in an earlier life.
In an earlier life, but it never really took off because there was so much complexity and uncertainty in what the development process would be. How long would it take to get approvals? what would the mitigation fees be? Now you can say, on this particular site, I know that I can build 28 stories. It can be any use. I know what my mitigation fee is going to be because it's by formula. And that just gets factored into the land price. And as long as I check all the boxes, I don't need to go to the city council. I go to the planning board. I have a building.
What's important here is that what Phil was talking about is that we created certainty. So when a developer comes to New Rochelle, they know what they're getting themselves into. They know what's expected.
The environmental impact's already been done. So you take away all that uncertainty, of course, why wouldn't you invest in New Rochelle?
In addition to that, now there is, and you know, RXR takes credit and New Rochelle takes a lot of credit, a great master plan, I think. And the master plan includes everything that you would want to have in your surrounding.
Now, you brought up the subject of the sound, and let's talk about the sound. Here's a developer, even though you've developed thousands of units around, but now you're going into the sound, which is beautiful, and the beach points and all the rest of the. And what are you doing in New Rochelle yourselves?
So as I was saying, the waterfront, which was the reason for New Rochelle being the Queen City and the attraction that came out historically, this area of Davenport Neck with the beach clubs that are there now had an opportunity where one of the businesses was leaving, and it had the potential to be a beautiful residential and very unique opportunity for us. So even though ordinarily we would be cautious looking at anywhere in Westchester, in meeting with the city, it was clear they both understood the process, how to get things done, and could be fair about what they would ask and require in terms of a developer coming in. And so we worked with them to change the zoning for the Davenport Neck and create what's a spectacular 72 luxury condominium complex, which every single unit can look at the waterfront because it has 3 sides of water.
Now, how far is it from downtown New Rochelle?
It's 5 minutes.
It's not a walkable 5 minutes.
It's not a walkable site. Like most waterfronts, it's a little more remote, which the people like. It's part of the attraction as you're sitting out on the sound and you're having your cup of coffee on a terrace.
So here's a question for Brian, Phil, and you. The big topic today is millenniums. Who do you see as your tenants? Who do you see as your purchases and your tenants with regard to these new developments in New Rochelle?
Well, New Rochelle has the benefit of affordability, as you say. So it's very expensive, as I'm sure you know, to live in Manhattan for millennials, for younger people who are just starting out, or for people who are at the end of when they want to move out of their homes, their family homes, and still maintain a presence in Westchester. So really, it's anybody who wants a more affordable,
lower cost alternative
to Manhattan.
What is,
and still be near Manhattan.
Right.
Very close to Manhattan. I mean, the commute of
what do you believe
commute of 30 minutes.
differential between a Manhattan rent and a New Rochelle rent will be when you build your first tower with the old Loews movie theater?
The rents will be in the upper 30s.
Let's talk about your project that you broke ground in December. About.
Yeah, so that's about 300 apartments on Main Street. It got approved very quickly within the 90 days. So the new zoning worked. And as part of the zoning, there are a list of community benefits that you can provide, and in exchange for that, you get extra density. So we contributed 10,000 square feet of our project to the city to use as a black box theater, and we won't get rent on that, but that was part of our contribution. And we also did a historic renovation to the facade. So those are 2 elements that were written into the zoning as optional benefits that you can provide and get zoning benefits.
Now, in this building, I know it's like 298 units or something like that, 240 parking spots.
And 10% affordable, which is in all the residential buildings.
Right, and the affordable is what, 80% of area median income?
Right.
And what is the area median income for New Rochelle, Chuck?
Well, Westchester is roughly 100,000.
About 100,000.
So somebody it's able 80% would be $80,000.
So a family of two, each making about $40,000, would do that.
And I have a question. In your development, are you going to have an affordable complex also?
Mm-hmm. Same.
And it's interesting, into the zoning, we also, or as a team, the city and us, defined the unit mix so that we know that studios are less likely to have young children in the school system, 3 bedrooms more likely. So the fee, the mitigation fee that the developers owe, you look it up on the table and you know by your unit mix what that's going to be.
With regard to that,
that's how the school system.
Your units are going to be like 1,700 square feet, right?
Even larger, 2,400 to 2,700.
Oh, really?
So it's a very different product.
Okay, so you're gearing to. We were saying before, some of them might be empty nesters,
Yeah.
who are not even there all year round, who are going to be going into the different thing. Your tenants are probably going to be.
So we have a rental product, which will be an average size of somewhere around 750 to 800 square feet, studio 1 and 2 bedrooms, and maybe a 2+.
Now, I was reading, Chuck, there was some type of program that the city of New Rochelle is doing with Montefiore for housing for the healthcare profession, right? Or are you planning?
Well, we have a unique opportunity to work with them,
Right?
Because we have a lot of area around the hospital, walkable areas. There's an area called Burling Lane where there's been 2 buildings built already. I think 5 more are planned, which is really walkable to the hospital, and many of those tenants will be hospital people. There's one thing I wanted to say, because we kept talking about certainty and taking the elected officials out of it. The elected officials really deserve credit for this, because they unanimously decided to extricate themselves from the process, the approval process, because they saw the need for something to happen. And for the first time in our history, when the market was ripe for us to develop, the process is in place and it's happening.
I'm happy you brought that up. When you have a live, work, shop visit, okay, and you were saying to me prior to the show that in reality, the shopping, the big box is limited to a Costco and a Home Depot. What do you see being developed with regard to retail? Because you need retail, especially with the transit-oriented development. You're going to have some restaurant for retail, and you need other small type of retail. What do you see being built?
It's been very frustrating for me over the years, because the people of New Rochelle want a certain type of retail, and we've been always trying to get that. But the real question that Luiz and I decided to pursue is, what kind of retail is likely to come here? So we undertook a study of our population, our demographics, both now and into the future, and we're going to have targeted retailers that we can go after with our partners in development that are realistic, that are going to come here.
These guys know the retail business.
But I think they do.
I think as the residential is developed and more people move into New Rochelle, I think the retail will come. And I think that right now planning retail along Main Street, which is a very important street in New Rochelle, I think is a very positive step. And I think that, as I say, as people move in,
do you
the
see
retail
some
will
more
follow.
student housing, because you have colleges in New Rochelle?
You do.
We just broke ground in a new dorm as part of this redevelopment for Monroe College, which is right downtown. But I wanted to add a little bit to the retail piece. As we look at what is the retail of tomorrow, because really retail has been evolving and changing so much, we are also decided to embrace culture, the arts. So we've also established a cultural district downtown, and we're incentivizing businesses that relate to the arts. That's one of the reasons why we have the Black Box Theater, in their building. So it's by creating this sort of like trend that it's not only the arts but also technology, because the art of tomorrow includes technology, that we hope to create a niche in the market for us to create a new destination, a new purpose for downtown New Rochelle.
Here's a question which I didn't discuss before the show, and I know Brian's been involved with it in Jersey City, the light rail. Is there a possibility of not a light rail or a ferry system around New Rochelle, or a bus that might be there?
That's one of my pet projects. We are now doing a study for a shuttle downtown New Rochelle. The hope is that it's going to be an electric shuttle that folks can hop on and hop off for free. And this way you can park on the perimeter of the city and really be able to move about, quite easily.
He's honestly more optimistic about that than I am.
No.
Well, and I think I mean they have that in Stamford. They have a shuttle, but I think what's nice about New Rochelle, the downtown, is it is very concentrated. It's only 10 or so blocks, so that it's very pedestrian friendly. You don't really need a shuttle if you're walking around downtown. Stamford is more spread out, and the development has been more spread out, so it's really at a disadvantage. New Rochelle is a very focused area for
Now, part of the plan also includes some hospitality, correct?
Absolutely. Right now we have 2 hotels, the Radisson and the Marriott, which are always fully occupied. There is a demand not only for the beach clubs and weddings and all that happen in New Rochelle, but the easy commute to New York City. Just 25 minutes away, you're paying a very different room rate, if you stay there.
There's a topic that recently has been discussed on my show, and somebody's doing it right now in Brooklyn, and they're doing it also. I think one developer is planning to do it in Long Island. The co-living concept. Mm-hmm. Do you see co-living, in some of the apartments, because it's very big with the millenniums, and if you're going to deal with the millenniums, it's something over there. What about Phil?
Yeah, we've been talking to a couple of groups about that. There are a few startups that have been doing it in Brooklyn, as you said, and they're very excited about New Rochelle as a place for that. And they're thinking of it as the next stage, because millennials are eventually going to get older, and they might not like sharing their apartments with strangers. So their idea, and we didn't come up with this, they came to us and said, well, this would be the next stage. So they want a little bit more privacy than they have in the completely co-living space, but they're not yet ready to buy a house. Right. So they're kind of looking a step ahead and saying this could be a nice evolution of the millennials into housing.
We have a project that we're about to announce along those lines where it's going to be all micro units, targeting artists, and then having a couple of floors that be co-living, so where they create art, they hang out and all that together and then live upstairs.
We're talking about rental, we talk about for sale and your development. I didn't hear a discussion about condominiums or for sale housing in structure. Is that part of the plan, Chuck?
Well, it's essentially my position is it's anything the market will bear will be allowed under the zoning.
So my question is that part of RXR's thoughts to maybe do for sale?
Yes, yes. We think the first project is obviously a rental, but as the demand grows, we think condos would definitely be a part of it, and we have that flexibility. The zoning is silent as to use, so that when the market is ready, that'll be included in the plans.
And we've found a huge demand for the marketplace for empty nesters in Westchester, New York City, Connecticut residents who are coming to look for the condominium product on the waterfront. It far exceeded our expectation. I think the registration list was over 800 people to start in pre-sales. So I think there's a strong market demand for people who live in Westchester in the area and want to find a place locally where they can stay.
In the same vein as we talk about the millenniums, the baby boomers, they don't need the big house anymore. And it sounds like the flexibility in your plan opens the opportunity to senior housing. And many people look at senior housing at 55 and older, but it's not a requirement, because there was one town where Meadowbrook was built in Nassau County on the former Roosevelt Raceway, where it was 48 years and older. Is there any requirement or for senior housing or assisted living?
There's not a requirement. The only requirement that we have is affordable housing, where it's a 10% requirement, and then you get a bonus if you build more. But certainly it's allowable, not just in the downtown, but throughout the city. We have one proposal for an assisted living facility, which is in the far north end of the city. And I think you'll find that that's another market that needs to be met in Westchester County particularly, because we have a lot of...
I think that not to interrupt, in my opinion, part of the reason why people are moving to, or would move to New Rochelle, is because the affordable cost of still getting a luxurious apartment with all of the amenities, swimming pools and gyms, and these are the things that these are the things that I think people are looking for and are going to enjoy. I understand the desire to build micro units or smaller units, but in Manhattan or in some place where your prices are so expensive that you can't, it's difficult for younger people to afford them. So they're forced to live in this sort of situation. People are moving to Westchester so that they can have the amenities, so that they can have the benefit of
Now, part of the master plan that I read included office and medical office.
Absolutely.
Okay. What's your thoughts on
Well, going back to eds and meds, right? So remember that we have 3 colleges in New Rochelle, and we have Montefiore Hospital. And the focus on the medical industry is huge in Westchester. And we have embraced that as well. And Montefiore is expanding. We are attracting other hospital-like facilities. And we see that as a huge segment in the office arena in the future. Let's remember that one of our colleges, the College of New Rochelle, is a nursing school as well. So there's a lot of synergy there.
Has New Rochelle seen the preponderance of the growth of the urgent care centers in the healthcare?
We've had a couple, but not
Right.
a lot, no.
There's one down, yeah.
There's a MetroMed
WestMed downtown, which is actually well utilized. But.
So you're in construction.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to be in construction.
This summer.
You're going to, when do you,
We're about 10 months away.
so your first apartments will be available when?
The end of 18, or early 19.
And you hope
We're going to be a little
12
earlier.
months, you said.
August 2018.
Right. So in the manner of over here of saying New Rochelle, ideally yours, it is an ideally location, and I'm happy that I've been able to put together the people who are developing, implementing, creating the plans of the city of New Rochelle, and I'd like to thank Luiz, Phil, Brian, Jeremy, and needless to say Chuck, and I'll see you next week.